So hi, I am KB with Nerdophiles. How are you?
I'm well. I was very hungry, but I'm satiated now, so I'm ready to go. I'm ready.
That
I'm
always makes
ready.
things better, I feel like.
And to make it even more entertaining, there's a room of people eating silently right now as best as they can.
Oh no, I'm sorry. So listen, I
Yeah, don't
absolutely,
apologize. They're getting paid for it right now, so they're okay.
you said, listen, they're on the clock. They're just on the clock eating silently.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I absolutely adore the show. So many twists and turns. And really, to me, kind of the heartbeat of the show in a lot of ways is the relationship between Hutch and Frank. You know, they work hand in hand. But these fugitive and Havelock manhunts really revealed that Frank is hiding some deep secrets. So, how do these secrets really impact Hutch and Frank's professional and personal dynamic as the season continues to move forward?
Great question, but first of all, I'd say I'm so happy to do this interview. I actually have read Nerdophiles. I've checked out the blog in the past, so this is
Oh,
actually pretty
thanks.
cool to be a part of. Um, I think it's almost a question of like, does it impact? I think that one is there is information about Frank's past that my character Hutch doesn't know, but I almost feel like he's a ride or die brother to him. That does it really impact him? Is it the fear is Frank's fear of sharing that story, with Hutch? Is that really going to impact the relationship? I don't know. I think that there's a close trust that's being built there that that hopefully comes off on camera, but I think at least between our dynamic and how I envision the relationship between characters, I think Hutch is, yeah, that's his boy. He's right or die for him, and is willing to navigate whatever tricky waters are ahead.
You know, I'm glad that you said that he's ride or die because it does feel like, Hutch and Frank really work within the lines of they're by the book. You know, they're doing things by the book. They don't really work outside of those lines. Hutch is willing to go kind of toe to toe with Sydney on some things just to be able to do things in proper order. So how does Hutch's relationship with Sydney expand as the season continues? Because, I do feel like it's a little bit of like we can only trust her as far as we can throw her, as they say.
Yeah, no, I think Hutch through the vast majority of the story is suspicious, right? He's like, I don't know what's going on, and but he also is one that goes by, leads with his gut of sorts, like just has a certain premonition about what feels right and what doesn't, and that comes across of like, hey, I don't know your angle, I don't know your approach, and also I don't know all the information that Frank does, but I trust Frank, and if he's apprehensive, I'm apprehensive as well, and there's also like a protective nature of like this is my backyard. This is where my people are from. I'm from here. And so I'm going to do what I think is best for my people.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, and so my last question, the indigenous population is the heart of Alaska and really the foundation of this country as a whole. So when a project like this, and with Hutch, rightfully being such a significant and bold character, what did collaboration look like, with the creative team to just kind of make sure that the integrity and authenticity and fullness of your lived experiences were front and center?
Amazing question. Thank you so much for that. I think that, the showrunner, we had lots of conversation leading up to production, before we started shooting. And I made it clear, like, hey, I'm coming on board onto this project. I'm excited, but I also want to make sure we do right by Alaska Native peoples. We're doing right by, how we're portraying Native peoples. I think it goes a long way that the show never explicitly says I'm Native. It doesn't like it just we're just and happen to be Native in this role, but there's some other actors and actresses that are in this show who are Native, who are also populated throughout the series that I was so excited to work with to make sure that we have that good representation. There's the cultural consultant for the project. His name's Sam Alexander. He's a military vet, a tribal community leader up in Alaska, teaches the language, and he's actually in the show. So there's a scene where some villagers find somebody who's been walking out in the cold, and he's one of the actual villagers that helps them, and that's the cultural consultant, Sam Alexander. And we made it really important. We're like, hey, you're looking for an actor who can say these words in the language, why not just hire your culture consultant and bring him down? So I was so happy that he was able to come on board and make sure that we're authentic in the portrayal of these villages.
You know what? I watched that episode, and something that I really appreciated was that there weren't subtitles. I said, this is what we need. I appreciate that, they are just able to exist and speak in their language, and we don't need to know. That is okay. Like, the
Yeah.
heartbeat and the foundation of what's going on. So I really actually appreciated that scene a lot. But yeah, I mean, I truly can't wait for audiences to continue on this ride. So just thank you so much for taking the time to chat with Nerdophiles. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Huge fan. Keep it up.
Yes, thanks so much and have a great day. So, hi, I'm KB with Nerdophiles. How are you both?
Very
Doing
good.
well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. What a wild ride. This show truly took me on every single turn, which I absolutely loved. So, I'm going to kick it off with you, Rich, first. When it comes to casting, were there certain actors that you all kind of envisioned for these characters even before their arcs were really like fleshed out?
Well, John and I talked a lot about we needed somebody that, looked lived in, looked like they had a past. When you look in their eyes, they look like they had some depth to them, and Jason has always been such a great actor. I mean, he reminds me of the actors from the 70s, like Robert Duvall and Gene Hackman and James Caan. And he would just embodied the role. It was really difficult to give him a note because whenever he walked on set, he was just frank, and so he filled everything that we wanted for the role.
Oh, okay. I love that. And John, I have to ask, Alfre Woodard is a gem as Bradford, but I like truly did not see her kind of profiting from these kills as one of the twists. So did you always know that you wanted Bradford to kind of be this sort of puppeteer and have all of this power in the web kind of early on in crafting the season?
We did, yeah. That was something very early on. We knew where we were going. What we didn't know, how great is Alfie, by the way? I mean, she's just it just makes me smile to think about it. She's just great. But we originally had sort of, the character of Bradford was kind of conceived as like this crusty old white guy, right? This old
Mm.
politician in charge. And when Alfred's name came up, we were at first it was like, well, maybe this could be a woman, and then it's like, okay, maybe this is a black woman, and it's like, what do we need to do? What do we shift in the scripts or the stories? What would that do to the character? And Alfred's like, don't change anything. I know exactly what I'm playing. I'm gonna play it like that crusty old guy, and yet she so embodies power, in such a great way, I think. And so we didn't really change anything. I mean, we left her name. I think it was Jack Bradford became Jacqueline Bradford, which is still Jack. So even the name stayed the same.
Oh, I like that. I like that
Yeah.
a lot because I like that you said that you kind of had him as like a crusty older white male because I'm glad she said she didn't want to change anything because she almost moves like an older white male like through the
Yeah.
series. I did notice that. I
It's
was
like
like,
that's
oh,
what she's
she moved.
playing almost, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like she's like, look, but it really, and when I say that like crusty old white guy, it really just means like p- powerful person blinded by their power, right? And she got that very early on, and I think what's also because of her warmth, I think it's a little more unexpected. She is somebody who is, you want to sit down and chat with and hang out with. She does have a warmth that just sort of radiates from her. So I think that helps that turn a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And so, Rich, I have to ask about Levi and Sydney. Obviously, through the course of the series, for me as a viewer, them being intimate partners wasn't really a shock, but the genuine love between them actually was for me because, we spent the majority of the season really building up to Levi being the villain, only to reveal that he is kind of the moral compass of the show in some ways. So, can you talk about how soon into crafting the season? That you guys knew you wanted to expand upon this love story that they have, kind of in an authentic way that would draw audiences in and almost have them rooting for them, even though in the beginning you kind of hate them.
Yeah, I mean, it is a twisted love story, right? And it's kind of fun. And you see the Easter eggs where when the plane's going down, we have Unchained Melody playing, which is like a love song over the the disaster that's about to unfold. Um, but we knew early on we were going to craft that, and it was hard to kind of layer in the past storyline along the way so that it would come back around to the beginning. That took a lot, but we knew that we wanted those two to have this kind of Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of vibe about them, I guess, but they're perfect together on screen. I mean, I think they're really great, and they you can see how each layer of their relationship starts to peel back throughout the episodes. Yeah.
And you know what? I love that you say that because literally the end that line, like, well, what can I say? I love my wife. I'm like, oh, well, I guess, you don't really expect him to kind of do, but then you're like, well, it is true. Everything that you guys have done has kind of been leading up to this point. And he does truly will do anything, it shows. The entire season one is them showing that they will do anything for each other. I mean, ultimately. So it pays
Crash
off.
planes, murder people. It's a
Right.
dark. It's a different kind of love,
Right,
but
right.
it's
And
pure.
and one that is truly only meant for the two of them, I
I think
believe.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But
Little
it
codependency too far.
Yes, yes, very much so. So I have to ask you, John, about Frank because, Frank's arc is so interesting to me because, we think that he is someone who is on the straight and narrow just for the sake of being on the straight and narrow, but we realize very quickly that because of his daughter's death, that really transforms him in a lot of ways, and he needs kind of the black and white. He cannot exist in gray spaces anymore. And so that really, really kind of challenges his family life, but also his working relationship with Sydney, which I like to think that they are the perfect husband-wife work duo in a sense,
Right. Right.
So talk a little bit about, where this idea of like Frank really going on this journey to getting back to black and white and how Sydney kind of shakes that up for him a little bit this season.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you say that. It's a he Frank is somebody who very much is obviously changed by the death of this child, right? He's a marshal who it's his job to protect people. The one person he couldn't protect is his own daughter, and that crushes him. And I guess the secret that he's carrying, which is really that he had a hand in why this all came to pass, right? The one time he crossed the line, it came back to bite him in the ass, and that's really defined who he is. It's really defined the sort of life he wants to lead and what he believes is the best path forward. And I think both, not only as you say in Sydney, and also in Havelock, they sort of reflect back to him that look, it's not always quite as black and white as you think. It's in fact often it's very gray. And um, I think one of my favorite moments in the show is in the very end where Frank is talking to Sydney, and even though he's captured her and he's taken her down and he's done the right thing, he's saved her life. He knows she's going to prison. He knows she's going away, and he knows she did something that was wrong. But he tells her, you spent yourself on a worthy cause. Your father would be proud. What you did, what she did was noble. And was just. It was super messed up. But I think so. Frank starts to see by the end of the season that grayness is unavoidable.
Yeah. Okay. And last question, just for the both of you. I know that the two of you crafted, the premiere and the finale episodes. So how did kind of book ending, so to speak, the season as creators not only set the tone for, the full season, but also tee it up for another season to come? And I can start with you, Rich, to answer first.
Um, well, we had a lot of ideas for the second season, and we just knew we wanted to leave it on a cliffhanger, but we didn't know what we were going to craft for the second season yet. But we knew we had ideas of where the three seasons would go. But John, you want to?
Yeah, I think to me, we always had an entry point and an ending in terms of Sydney and her as a kind of gray villain, and ultimately there's a turn toward her being the big bad. But I think what we found along the way was that what we didn't want to, like Rich says, it ends with a cliffhanger in terms of the two of them, of what there's a, it's sort of, you know, the horror movie, the hand comes from the grave. Uh-oh, there's one, there could be more here. But at the same time, we worked really hard to sort of wrap it all up. That story, why the plane went down, who these two sort of mad lovers are, what their dynamic is, what they're fighting for. That's that story is very wrapped up in a way, right? That story, hopefully to the audience, like each episode feels very complete, and it doesn't feel like, well, you didn't get any answers, come back next season. So I think we're positioned in a way, I hope that audiences feel like we answered all the questions that were presented up front. Hopefully they were satisfying and surprising, and yet, yeah, there could definitely be more. And that finding that and that process, that is the, to me, I think that's what we have the most fun doing.
Well, you all did a fantastic job doing it. And also, I just have to shout out the cinematographer. It is also stunning, like to
It's
watch. It's
beautiful, right? The art,
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, Alaska's been on my list for a number of years, but I have to like move it to the top. It's just so gorgeous.
yeah. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you for saying that. It's
Yeah.
the directors and the DPs specifically did really great work. I'm glad you say that. Thank
Yeah, it's stunning. So just thank you both so much for taking time to chat with Nerdophiles. I really cannot wait for audiences to see the rest of the season because it's incredible.
you. Lovely
Thank you so
speaking with you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.